Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in the clown decade. The decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. And it's quite amazing that our Home Secretary, Suella Braverman's tactics these days are basically to be in total denial of how far we are into the clown decade. With Suella throwing out this incredible tweet just last Saturday. Offending someone is not a criminal offence. I'm pretty sure if that's true, Count Dankula would love his £800 back that the justice system just stole from his account. Our new code of practice on non-crime hate incidents comes into force today. Now police will only record them when it is absolutely necessary and proportionate and not because someone is offended. I mean, why are they recording them at all? They're only recording them because a Home Secretary in the past said that they should. How do you not have the power to say, don't record them anymore, they're pointless? I will continue to remove unnecessary burdens such as cutting red tape to free up police time and ensuring health professionals respond to mental health issues rather than officers so the police can focus on the job of cutting crime and keeping people safe. So I'm a big supporter on everything she said after the first sentence, essentially. We're going in the right direction there where we're recording less non-crime hate incidents, but ideally we wouldn't have them existing at all because why are the police in any way interested in anything that is a non-crime? But it's the whole non sequitur after the first sentence that gets me. Offending someone is not a criminal offence. Here's a load of things that I'm doing about non-crime hate incidents. Well, non-crime hate incidents aren't crimes anyway, so it's nothing to do with the rest of the paragraphs. And either way, as the Count Dankula example was a prime example of how offending someone is a criminal offence, people can argue, oh, that's through the Communications Act and only on the internet. Well, unfortunately for Suella Braverman, on the exact same day, about 5 hours after Suella Braverman made this tweet, we had this tweet from the Metropolitan Police Events. #arrest. We are aware of this and have worked proactively with officials at Wembley Stadium to identify the individual. He's been arrested on suspicion of a public order offence and taken into custody. Now, this is the tweet that they are replying to by the Cop Watch, saying a Man United fan at Wembley today, get this man's face spread across social media as soon as possible. He needs to face repercussions. #LFC, or Liverpool FC. Now, for context, this was at the FA Cup final between Manchester United and Manchester City, both of which are teams that naturally hate Liverpool, given that Manchester is about 30 miles from Liverpool, and basically everyone hates Scousers. So this is arguably one of the safest places to make this joke, although it is outside of Manchester and instead inside London. So this man was wearing a football shirt that he knows is going to get negative reactions. It is a very edgy joke, and just for those of you who don't know, this is in reference to the Hillsborough disaster, where in 1989 Liverpool were playing Nottingham Forest in the Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield, and with the result of terrible crowd control from South Yorkshire Police and Liverpool fans being Liverpool fans, too many people were allowed into the stadium by the police, and unfortunately the stadium collapsed, killing 97 people, hence the shirt saying, not enough, 97. And this disaster was so horrendous that on screen is a memorial to the people who lost their lives at the disaster at Liverpool Stadium. So yes, to say this is an edgy shirt would be a bit of an understatement. If he was refused entry into Wembley Stadium, that would be completely understandable. If he had a lifetime ban from Wembley Stadium and all FA Cup matches in the future, that would be understandable. If Liverpool fans saw him in that shirt and started getting aggressive with him, that would be understandable. It would be illegal, but it would be understandable. So the best course of action would probably be for the police to arrest him for disturbing the peace, which is essentially just a way to get them out of there. Tell him to take the shirt off, not go out with it again, and release him without charge. That would be the most sensible thing to do. The police have that power. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world, and according to the Daily Mail, a man who was arrested by the police at the FA Cup final on Saturday after wearing a shirt appearing to mock the Hillsborough disaster has been named. James White, 33, from Warwickshire, was charged by police with displaying threatening or abusive writing likely to cause harassment, alarm, or distress. Yes, that is how silly our public order laws are in Britain. He was bailed to appear at Willesden Magistrates Court on Monday the 19th of June. If found guilty, he could face up to 6 months in prison with an unlimited fine. Yes, our ridiculous laws that even go back to Margaret Thatcher's day remain ridiculous. So this is from the Public Order Act 1986. And just for the details of the law that I've been through before, but to like to remind everyone, In Section 5 of Harassment, Alarm or Distress, a person is guilty of an offence if he uses threatening or abusive words or behaviour, or disorderly behaviour, or displays any writing, sign, or other visible representation which is threatening or abusive, within the hearing or sight of a person likely to be caused harassment, alarm, or distress thereby. And just to be quite frank, I don't think it's a bad idea to have a law that gets you arrested for threatening or abusive behaviour. However, when the definition of abusive behaviour includes alarm or distress, that covers absolutely everything you shout in public. Shouting anything in public causes alarm or distress, so anyone within hearing distance, technically they are a victim of you being an abuser. And clearly this law needs loosening if someone who, quite frankly, just should be banned from all FA Cup games in the future and should just be removed from the area by police, and that's it, that's all that should have happened. Clearly, this law is a ridiculous law. Especially when the shirt that is just an edgy, bad taste joke can end with this man facing the consequences of a 6-month jail sentence and having an unlimited fine. I mean, odds are the judge isn't going to give him a jail sentence and the fine will probably be minimal. But really, his ban from FA Cup matches should probably be punishment enough. You know, we don't need the law to come in and hit him over the head with a hammer. Yet this is the laws we have on the books, and this isn't even the worst one. But going back to the Mail for a second, when you compare it to the other arrests that were made that day, so the Met Police named White on Sunday afternoon after they revealed a further 22 people were arrested during the policing operations associated with the FA Cup final. These arrests were made for offences including assault, affray, possession of drugs, and drunk and disorderly behaviour. Clearly these are laws that the police should be focusing on, and yet they probably will have missed someone who deserved a punishment because someone wore a bad taste shirt. A police spokesman added that the inquiries into reports of an item being thrown onto the pitch shortly after Man United scored in the match continue. No arrests have been made in relation to the item throwing incident. Possibly because the security at Wembley and the police were too busy trying to find a man wearing an offensive football shirt. Beggars belief. I don't even know how he got into the stadium with that type of shirt. Security are at every gate. But either way, I've made the point on this. It's completely up to the FA organisers what they do with him. The police, frankly, shouldn't have been involved beyond removing him from the area, which they have the power to do and is perfectly reasonable to do so. But obviously, this isn't the only law that we have that is high profile and says that you can't be offensive despite what Suella Braverman claims. We have Section 127 of the Communication Act 2003, and in subsection 1 you get straight into the problem. So, a person is guilty of an offence if he sends, by means of a public electronic communications network, a message or other matter that is grossly offensive or of an indecent, obscene or menacing character, or causes any such message or matter to be so sent. And as we've been saying for years, what the hell does grossly offensive mean? While everyone knows the case of Count Dankula, it involves saying that the Nazis are the most disgusting creatures you can ever think of, and I want to have the cute dog here be this most disgusting thing that I can think of, and then say disgusting things as a parody of that. At this point, it just feels like beating a dead horse every time I bring it up, but hey, this is important, and I love going into autistic detail to prove Suella Braverman wrong. And luckily there is a website that's actually kept a comprehensive list of all the cases in recent history where Section 127 has been invoked, and they even have an official guidance section to let us know what the Crown Prosecution Service's official guidance is. So as a result of the controversial prosecutions of social media users, the Crown Prosecution Service has drawn up guidelines seeking to limit the cases brought under Section 127. The Director of Public Prosecution's interim guidelines from December 2012, so this is years ago, over a decade ago, oh my god, for social media prosecutions include the use of Section 127. These attempt to limit the uses of Section 127 to cases which go beyond those which are offensive, shocking, disturbing, or satirical, iconoclastic or rude, or the expression of unpopular or unfashionable opinions about serious or trivial matters, or banter or humour, even in distasteful to some or painful to those subjugated to it. They have been welcomed by Article 19, who, however, caution that the effect of the guidelines must be seen in practice first. So over a decade ago, the CPS had guidance saying, look, Don't invoke section 127 if it's just a bit of banter, i.e. if it's a joke, and even if it's an unpopular opinion, they should still be free to have that offensive opinion. And yet, as we will go through with these cases, you will see that that guidance has not been followed. So between, oh my god, that is not for human eyes, the 25th of July 2003 and the 31st of December 2011, there had been 5,316 people found guilty at magistrates' courts in England and Wales of offences under Section 127. These figures will include obscene telephone calls and text messages, as well as internet-based communications. The figures available cannot distinguish between communications to an individual, such as a phone call, or the public, such as a Twitter post. And as you can see from this law's inception, it seems to be used more and more and more and more, and that conviction ratio is going up and up and up and up. In other words, Section 127 appears to have always been quite lax when it comes to this. Now, that's not to say the whole of Section 127 is bad, it is simply just the grossly offensive bit. As some of these examples show, it can be used quite badly. So, firstly, there was the Paul Chambers incident, who was arrested in January 2020 for tweeting a joke about blowing Robin Hood Airport sky high because they had delayed his flight. And the conviction was overturned on appeal, and that had a lot of high-profile comedians saying this is obviously a joke, why are you arresting a man for a joke? And underneath that you have a 21-year-old man, David Glyn Jones, who was jailed for 4 months for posting the message "Let's start Bangor riots" on Facebook after the 2011 London riots, which anyone can tell, I can tell there with absolutely no context, that was obviously a joke. No one posts publicly on Facebook to say "Let's start riots" seriously. However, naturally, there are also the examples that actually the section might have some use for, such as the Frank Zimmerman case, who, at 60 years old, was given a 26-week jail sentence and suspended for 2 years after making email threats to Louise Mensch MP. Specifically, in the email, he addressed her as the slut of Twitter, and Zimmerman said, "We are anonymous and we do not like rude C-words like you and your nouveau riche husband, Peter Mensch. We are inside your computer or your phones, everywhere and inside your homes. So get off Twitter. We see you are still on Twitter. We have sent a camera crew to photograph you and your kids, and we will post it over the net, including Twitter. C-word face. You now have Sophie's choice. Which kid is to go? One will. Count on it, C-word. Have a nice day." Obviously, I still think emails like that should be illegal. That is just a direct threat. However, the spirit of the Communications Act, Section 127, doesn't really cover genuinely threatening emails. It just says grossly offensive, indecent, obscene, or menacing in character. Which again is entirely down to interpretation, though. If there's one thing I've learnt, it's that a lot of British law is entirely down to interpretation. However, I don't think that it is the correct language within the law if it's getting people who are making obvious jokes in the trouble that they are getting in. Examples, Count Dankula and the two that I had on screen before. However, maybe the wording of the law just needs to be completely amended to say threatening or abusive rather than offensive or indecent. Because all type of porn is offensive and indecent. Yet it is still all over there on the internet. Technically, anyone who's put porn up in Britain, you have committed an offence. It's just not enforced, because this law's interpretation is completely awful. But either way, to bring this all back, Suella Braverman, you are wrong. It is, of course, a criminal offence to be offensive in Britain. I've given you just a few examples here, and Section 127 has been invoked many times to arrest and charge and prosecute people who have been offensive online. And the Public Order Act 1986 has also been used in a similar way. These sections need complete amendment to make it clear that having a joke or holding a political opinion should not get you arrested and put in a jail cell and charged by the police. If you want to fight the oncoming wave of political correctness that we have been seeing for the past few decades, you have to make it actually legal to fight it, and having these laws makes it completely impossible. You can probably be done under the Public Order Act for burning a pride flag in public, especially for the holiest of months. This month, that is the LGBT month. The second that Britain has of the year. Whereas I want that type of protest to be perfectly legal. Alas, it is not, and I can only thank Suella Braverman for doing absolutely nothing about it. Anyway, that's everything I had for you today. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.